it's Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. I am so excited to bring you my guest today. Leah Miller has almost a decade as a law firm administrator and CFO. She was formerly a CFO of a personal injury law firm. Leah understands the unique challenges law firms face when it comes to managing financials within the firm. In 2023, Leah decided to take the experience to help law firm owners across the country reach their growth goals. Through LNM Financial Services, Leah provides fractional CFO services to law firms who have growth goals and need extra help with the financial analysis. So listeners, if you're just getting to know her success story and myself, Ivy Slater, welcome. For those of you who've been here a while, welcome back. The ones who've gotten to know me know I am crazy with my clients on knowing your numbers, and that numbers tell a story and not enough people read the book. So when I met Leah a while ago, we were introduced through mutual people just to network. As we were talking, I think it took 5 minutes, Leah, and I was like, you need to be on Our Success Story. Do you do podcasts? Would you do this? Can we talk about the importance of finances in the law firms?
Yes, you did. And I love talking about it because I just want to reach everybody. And I have the same goal of you just need to know your numbers.
So we aligned immediately. And thank you, Leah, for joining me today on Her Success Story.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
So how did this become your thing? Okay, because I think you've had like an interesting journey and not a very direct journey.
Yeah, so I did not know what I wanted to do when I first went away to college, which I think happens a lot. And I
Yes.
was just kind of going along, taking classes, and I happened to know somebody who was an office manager of a law firm. And she asked if I wanted a job, and I said yes. So I was hired as a legal assistant. I don't even know what my title was. And the first day I was in that firm, I saw the word interrogatories and I was like, what is this? It's a whole new language. But I fell in love with it. I loved the legal field at that point. It was not anything that had ever been on my radar. So I changed my major to paralegal studies and I went to school to be a paralegal. And I loved it. I loved doing paralegal work. I worked in bankruptcy for a little bit, and then I switched to a personal injury law firm. And my ultimate goal was to be an office manager one day. And I thought it would be like when I was old, like in my 40s, which is not old anymore. But back then it seemed really old and far away. And so that was the goal. And about a year into working at that personal injury firm as a litigation paralegal, our office manager quit. And I looked at my boss and I was like, hey, I could be your office manager. And he was like, can you? And I said, yeah. And so I was promoted. Our accountant came in and showed me QuickBooks. And that's kind of how I got started on that path of reaching that goal when I was 27 as opposed to older. And I went on to get my bachelor's degree and my MBA while I was working there with no other goal than to be there forever. I was going to work at that law firm forever. And my role evolved to firm administrator, or CFO, not fractional, CFO. And I was pretty much doing everything there was to run that firm. And it was a personal injury firm. And then September 2022, we got hit with a hurricane in Florida and our office flooded. And so we got a new office and it was about an hour drive from me. And so that started last January of 2023. And that's far when you have 2 kids or 3 kids. I have 3 kids. When you have 3 kids.
Do we lose track of those children?
Sometimes you just forget. But it's far. And I had started doing some bookkeeping and some financial consulting on the side. And I saw that there was such a need in the law firm community for this, for bookkeeping and fractional CFO services. And it continued to grow. And so May of last year, I was able to leave that job that I had thought I would have forever, and took a completely different path than what I thought I would be on 12, 15 years ago as paralegal.
I want to go back because I heard when you said something a minute or so ago, you said, they're like, okay, we need to hire an office manager. It's like, I could do that. What made you think you could do that? Like, what made you, or not even think you could do that? What made you go for it?
So I've always been a very confident person, um, and probably naively so, that I just think I can do everything. And so I've just been a person that always wants to do everything. And I asked my mom one day, because I have 3 daughters. So obviously I want them to grow up to think that they can do anything they want to do in the world. So I asked my mom one day, I'm like, what did you do to make me confident in that way? She was like, that's just you. We just never did anything to make you not confident. So yeah, I saw an opportunity of, this is my chance. This is what I want to do. And so I'll just do it. I'll just figure it out. And so that's what I did. And I will forever be grateful for my boss who took that chance on me.
So when you said, okay, this woman who said, I'll figure it out, and then said, okay, I'll start my own company. Did the were you scared this was gonna work? I have to ask.
I'm a very cautious person, very conservative person when it comes to taking risks. And so, yeah, it was terrifying. Because I mean, we relied on my income. I didn't have like, I'm married, I have a husband, but we both provide equally. And so there was no like fallback or anything like that. I knew that if I needed to get a job as a paralegal, I could. So like that was the fallback plan. But yeah, no, it was scary, but I think that's what has made me work so hard, because people are always like, oh, is it easy? Because they see me having a lot of flexibility. And I'm like, no, I have never done so much work before in my life, but it's so good at the same time. I love it.
So how have you gone about building this organization?
So, early on, I had a few contacts, in the legal field, but not a lot. And I've just been putting myself out there. So I'm on LinkedIn almost every single day, posting tips, tricks. My biggest thing is, I'm not necessarily looking for clients all the time. I'm just trying to share my experience, my expertise in what I'm doing, because I honestly like just want to help people. Which can sometimes be a problem, because I want to help everybody, and like I don't have the time to help everybody, and I like at some point I have to get paid. So, but
Yes.
yeah, I've just been putting myself out there and just networking the best I can and building relationships. I commented on somebody's LinkedIn today that I went on LinkedIn to get leads, and I never realized the connections and relationships I would build.
I think that is so true. I will say, we're just starting with a new client, and it's somebody I probably met 5, 6 years ago. And we've done some little things together, but most importantly, we've stayed in touch.
Mhm.
We stayed in touch through various times, changing world, COVID, this, that, and the other thing. We've just stayed in touch. And then, the conversation, like the end of last year, something reached out. One of us reached out for one of the other. Maybe it was like a Halloween thing or whatever, because she has kids. And I was like, hey, and it's like, oh, this is going on. I was like, oh, this is, and then all of a sudden it's, why don't we talk? And then, hey, can we bring you in? Because we have different things going on in the next 5 years, and we're looking for a growth. And it's staying connected from the heart, not from the business. But
Yes.
to me, like, you will win business when you stay connected from your heart and with integrity and truth, and you truly build people to people relationships.
Yes. And especially believe that right now in this world of AI, and you're not quite sure what is being written is actually being written. And I think that because I have been so authentic and I write in a way on LinkedIn and social media that isn't exactly perfect all the time, but my personality comes through. I think that's really helped me of like, you can tell I'm a genuine person, and I really just want my clients to win, and I love the legal field, and I just want people to win. And I want them to like feel confident in their finances because it's not a place where most people feel confident. And so I want every single business owner to feel confident in what they're doing in their business with their finances.
So when you go to in and work with clients, okay, let's talk about this a little bit because I know my methodology and I know how I feel on the importance that numbers tell a story and not enough companies look at their numbers. And I'm not talking $100,000 and $200,000 businesses. I'm talking 1 million, 2 and 5. Um, you should see Leah's face right now. Her eyes are like, her head is nodding, her eyes are wide open. So you jump in here. Don't interrupt
Yes.
me because
I have met law firm owners with very successful law firms that have never looked at a profit and loss before. And so I always start with my clients of what is your goal? And everybody has different goals. Some of my clients, they want to work less hours, make the same amount of money. So they have to hire people to do that. And so they need confidence in knowing their finances to be able to hire more people.
correct.
Other, law firms, they want to just grow and they want to increase their revenue. And so they'll give me a revenue number. And I always bring it back to what does that revenue do for you personally? What does it do for your firm? What does it do for your employees? Because a lot of my clients, especially the ones who are growth minded, they have amazing culture in their firm. And so by knowing the numbers, you can kind of foster that and do a little bit more with that. You can do more for the community. You can spend more money, even if you're not having cash flow issues and if you've been very, very successful. Knowing those numbers gives you the confidence to go do even more with what your hard work has earned you.
And I think, when we're looking at, to me, numbers are in finance and numbers are in a lot of other things in a business. And I agree with you on the P&L statement. Not enough founders, CEOs, they're like, we have it handled. The accounting department, when I need it, I go to them. I'm like, no, 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 no. You need to know it all the time. Not not when somebody's asking you a question, not when your accountant is asking and you go to your accounting department. You need to know where you're spending your money, how profitable you are. Do you want, what kind of ratios you're running at profitability wise? What percentage increases or decreases things are? And I'll also say the numbers also sit in your marketing. The numbers sit in how long your people are with your company.
Yes. And I think a big thing, I'll look at people's profit and loss and their wages are really high. And I'm like, why are your wages so high? They shouldn't be that way for a law firm. And they're like, well, our people are overworked and we need more people. And I'm like, no, this is not a person problem. It's not a money problem. This is a process problem. And so, what processes can you put in place to increase productivity or, make things more efficient, which will then make your people happier when they're not spinning their wheels, having too much work? It's like if your wages are sitting at 50% of your revenue, something's wrong. Your revenue needs to go up or your people need more efficient processes. And so if you get into those numbers and know them more than were we profitable, you can use that data to make operational decisions to help with marketing, with people, with your culture, with everything that you do. The numbers should be what drives those decisions.
And I agree with that. And the numbers should drive the decisions. And I want to go into with you, Leah, because you said this a couple of times, and I agree with you, and I believe it to be true. But I don't think everybody gets the alignment between why you and I are talking of the importance of knowing your numbers and how it impacts culture. They're like, no, 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 culture's in HR, numbers is on our finance department. And you and I think the two of us are so aligned and we're having this conversation. I was like, we're not explaining this.
I think at the most basic level is it helps you knowing the numbers and knowing what you can spend will help you fund that culture. Like it costs money. You want to pay your people well. You want to give them good benefits. And a lot of times I find clients are like, I really wish we could give this benefit, but it's just not going to work out. And it's like, well, let's get into your numbers. Let's see what it looks like. We may be able to make room for that. And a lot of times, law firm owners are conservative in their spending. So not all of them are having cash flow issues. They just don't want to spend the money because they want to make sure they have like that nest egg sitting there. And so when they have somebody who's getting in the numbers with them who can say like, hey, it's okay for you to give these bonuses. And so that it gets into the culture. Again, back to the, processes and making sure we have efficient processes in place and all of that. Like that goes back to culture, making sure your people have are taking ownership over the company and being transparent with them. All of that goes into the culture of what your firm.
When the clients, you've been doing this a while now, what are you learning from your clients? Because I always think every time, people like, oh, you impart, such wisdom, or, people do. I was like, I learn every day. It is so cool because I learn something every day. What do you
I
find?
Oh man, I learn stuff every day as well. Um, I think the biggest thing is going back to the culture. I tend to work with clients who are growth minded, because that's where we are, they want to grow. And so, I have clients who they're putting their resources towards the health of their company, the health of their community, and things like that. And so my clients are really starting to think outside the box of let's just have a website with SEO and like normal marketing. They're getting out into their communities and they're really doing some big things. And so that I think is the biggest takeaway I get from my clients. And business. I mean, I'm growing a business. Which isn't a law firm, but it's a service-based business in a lot of ways is similar. And so, I have learned what not to do, what to do with my own business as well. But I'm really inspired by a lot of my clients every day because they're law firm owners who are taking things to the next level and they're getting rid of that old school mentality of a law firm and they're changing things up and I love it.
What has surprised you in building your own company? Because
Oh,
it's the first time you do it, it's like, wow.
um, the kind of like basic thing is how quickly the day goes. When I quit my job, I was like, I'm gonna cook dinner every day. My laundry is going to be caught up all the time. I'm home. I have all the time in the world. It is not like that. When you are on your own time, the day just flies by. But I think what has really surprised me for me is how much I have loved the business development side. So if you had asked me a year ago, I would have told you I hated networking. I don't like talking to people. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to do sales. And now the networking and the talking to people and the business development, I thrive off of that. I love it. I wanted nothing to do with the website and social media when I worked at the law firm. It wasn't mine. So, like it's different. I love it now. I get into it. I geek out over it. So that's been the biggest surprise there. But and it's a roller coaster every day owning your own business,
Yeah.
but it's yours. And so it's so hard, but so good at the same time.
I'll share a couple of things on this one. I like that. Number one, when I was divesting of my printing company and I moved and I started Slater Success, I started working from home for the very first time ever. Okay. And I took over one of my kids' rooms who was in college and I made it my office. And my husband came home and he's like, oh my God, like you never like this sink is full of dishes. Like you never like I put everything away. If you use a dish, you put it in the dishwasher. I was like, I'm working. I can't. I was like, I'm not wasting time. I'm putting my stuff. I come in, I have in the morning, I prep my lunch, because I didn't want to run out and lose the time where I used to go out for lunch. And I said, would prep my lunch when I made breakfast for myself in the morning, and it would be ready. And all the dishes would be in the sink, and you come home because I can't believe like the kitchen. I was like, I'm in the office all day. I'm not home, I'm at work. And
Yep.
and it was this transformation.
Hmm.
I never realized, I have done really well in sales, and I learned that in my 20s. And I never realized that an introvert, truly, somebody who I was a shy kid, um, an introvert at heart, that my curiosity about other people brought forth a great ability to do business development.
Yeah, I'm still terrified sometimes to meet new people because it's just like me. But yeah, I think that is the curiosity of meeting new people and just learning about them, learning about their business because I geek out over business stuff. So like I want to know all like I was at a mastermind last week and I was like, how's everybody doing their invoicing? It had nothing to do with anything, but I wanted to know, you know. So that's yes, I think the curiosity of it has helped with the sales. So
So, Leah, one tip you might pass forward to our listeners who are scaling their own law firms, listeners who are scaling their own service-based businesses, listeners who are thinking about starting a business, what would it be?
back to the basics of just making sure your accounting system is set up, whether it be QuickBooks or whatever it is, from day one. Like I just spoke to somebody who's starting their own business, and I'm like, yes, from day one, get it set up and just take time, schedule time on your calendar once a month. Even if you don't hire a fractional CFO or anything like that, put time on your calendar to sit down and run the P&L, run the balance sheet. You can do all of that in your accounting system and sit down and look at it every single month and just think about the how those numbers can work for you, and don't be scared of the finances. It's really not scary.
And, I will add in, if you're a little intimidated by the finances, reach
Yep.
out and get some help, talk through with someone.
Yep.
You know, the more we understand, the more educated we are in any areas we don't know, the more confident we become, and the more, truly powerful we become as leaders.
Yeah, and find somebody who is going to help educate you as opposed to just turning over the statements and saying, "Hey, you're good." And that's how I try to reach my client is here is the why behind it, because I'm a why person. And so I'm not just going to say, yes, you're doing good. Yes, no, you're doing bad. I'm going to say, hey, these are what the finances are telling us. This is why it looks this way. And I think that finding that person for yourself is what will help you have the confidence in your finances.
I love it. Leah Miller, thank you so much for joining me here today on Her Success Story.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
This was a ton of fun. Leah, all of her contact is below. What's the best way to reach out to you? What's the best way for our listeners to connect?
So the best way is if you go on my website, lnmfinancial.com, you can set a 30-minute consultation. But I invite everybody to connect with me on LinkedIn. My name's Leah Miller, MBA. I post almost every single day, and I will always be happy to jump into DMs with somebody about anything that I post.
Awesome. And listeners, what I say always at this time in the show is take a breath and think about what was the one takeaway or aha you have from just joining Leah and I in our conversation today. Write that down somewhere. And why is that important to you? Create the action that is going to make the difference for you. Thank you. If this episode was helpful to you, please pass it forward. And of course, hit subscribe. And And we look forward for you to join us on many, many more episodes of Her Success Story. See you next time.
Don't need your approval anymore, 'cause I've got mine.